European nations dependent on Russian gas are facing significant challenges as they scramble to adapt to the new U.S. sanctions targeting Gazprom Bank, which will come into effect on December 20, 2024. This unexpected move has created uncertainty in the European energy market, putting energy supplies at risk by complicating payment mechanisms for countries like Slovakia, Hungary, and Austria, which have long-standing contracts with Gazprom for their natural gas needs. The sanctions are part of broader international efforts to reduce Russia's revenues and restrict financial resources that could fund its war in Ukraine. However, these measures may inadvertently jeopardize Europe's energy security, potentially leading to severe disruptions in the supply of natural gas. Hungary, for instance, has raised serious concerns about the increased risk of gas supply halts through Ukraine, a critical transit route for Russian gas heading to Europe. While Slovakia has not officially made statements on the issue, it is actively seeking alternative solutions to maintain its gas supplies. Austria, a country heavily reliant on Russian gas, is facing its own set of problems. OMV AG, Austria's largest utility company, has stopped making payments to Gazprom due to the U.S. sanctions, leaving the country in a precarious position. Furthermore, Turkey, another important player in the distribution of Russian gas to Europe via the Turkstream pipeline, is currently in negotiations with the U.S. to secure waivers that would allow continued use of Gazprom Bank. As natural gas futures in Europe approach their highest levels in a year, many European countries are actively exploring alternative solutions to mitigate the impact of these sanctions. Some potential solutions include leveraging already authorized Russian banks for transactions, applying for licenses from the U.S. Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, to allow energy-related payments, or pursuing bespoke licenses that would grant specific exemptions for European companies involved in energy trade. However, these options are not without their risks. Renegotiating payment terms with Gazprom could lead to protracted contract disputes and further destabilize energy markets, compounding the challenges that European nations already face in securing energy supplies. The energy relationship between the European Union, EU, and Russia has been under immense pressure since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Prior to the conflict, Russia was a key energy supplier to the EU, fulfilling nearly 40% of the bloc's natural gas requirements. However, geopolitical tensions and the imposition of various sanctions have disrupted this energy arrangement. The EU has accused Russia of weaponizing its energy exports, using gas supplies as leverage in the ongoing conflict. Moscow, in turn, has blamed the disruptions on Western sanctions and alleged technical issues with the infrastructure. A notable casualty of this strained relationship has been the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which saw drastic reductions in capacity before ultimately being shut down. Additionally, Russia has cut off gas supplies to countries that refuse to comply with its demand to make payments in rubles, a move that has forced the EU to accelerate its search for alternative sources of energy. This has led to an increased focus on diversifying Europe's energy mix, with many countries seeking to reduce their dependence on Russian fossil fuels. The EU has ramped up efforts to import more liquefied natural gas, LNG, from other countries such as the United States and Qatar. At the same time, it has invested heavily in renewable energy infrastructure, in an attempt to create a more sustainable and independent energy supply. However, these efforts take time, and in the short term, they have been unable to fully offset the loss of Russian natural gas. The disruption of Russian energy exports has had significant financial implications for Europe. Natural gas prices have surged, with European gas prices reaching over $300 per megawatt hour in 2022, a level that has fueled inflation across the continent. This price spike has had a devastating impact on both households and industries, leading to higher heating bills and production costs for businesses. The surge in energy prices is not limited to the EU either. On November 22, 2024, Russian gas exports to Austria came to a halt, marking another escalation in the ongoing energy crisis. As a result, European gas prices saw another sharp increase, reaching their highest levels in nearly a year. This price rise has been exacerbated by growing concerns over further disruptions to gas supplies and heightened geopolitical tensions, especially in light of Ukraine's deployment of UK-supplied Storm Shadow missiles against Russian military targets. On November 20, 2024, the Dutch Tidal Transfer Facility, TTF, front-month futures, which serve as Europe's benchmark for natural gas prices, rose by 2.61%, reaching 468.6 per megawatt hour. This increase underscores the sensitivity of European gas markets to geopolitical developments. In the United Kingdom, the energy regulator Ofgem announced a £21 increase in the energy price cap, set to take effect in January 2025. This price increase is driven by rising wholesale gas prices. which are influenced not only by political instability, but also by extreme weather conditions. As a result, the average annual energy bill for a British household is projected to rise to £1,738. This increase will put further financial strain on consumers and businesses alike, deepening the impact of the energy crisis across Europe. Historical context: EU-Russia. Energy relations. The energy relationship between Europe and Russia has a long and complex history, shaped by both geopolitical events and economic factors. After World War II, Europe was divided into East and West, with the Soviet Union controlling much of Eastern Europe. During the Cold War, trade between the Soviet Union and Western Europe was minimal, due to ideological divides and mutual distrust. However, by the late 1960s, economic exchanges began to emerge. Austria became the first Western European country to import Soviet gas in 1968, just before the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia. This deal between Austria's OMV and the Soviet Union's Soyuz neft export initiated regular gas deliveries, setting the stage for deeper energy cooperation in the decades to come. As the years passed, other Western European nations followed Austria's lead. By the late 1980s, Soviet gas accounted for significant portions of the natural gas consumption of countries like France and Germany. Energy exports from the Soviet Union were seen as a vital part of East-West economic relations. During the 1970s, a thaw in Cold War tensions enabled the development of major energy infrastructure projects such as the Druzhba oil pipeline and the Urengoy-Pomorye-Urad gas pipeline. The Druzhba pipeline, which means friendship in Russian, began operations in 1964, and it continues to supply crude oil to many European countries, including Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, and Germany. Similarly, the Urengoy-Pomorye-Urad pipeline, operational since 1984, transported significant volumes of natural gas from Siberia to Europe, cementing Russia's role as a key energy supplier. The dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991 further solidified Russia's position as an energy powerhouse. Throughout the 1990s, energy trade between Russia and the EU expanded, even as Russia faced severe economic challenges. In 1994, the EU and Russia signed the Partnership and Cooperation Agreement, PCA, which created a framework for closer political and economic ties, including energy cooperation. By 2005, EU-Russia trade had surpassed $166 billion, with energy exports playing a dominant role. Russia had become a crucial supplier of oil and gas to the EU, and energy trade was increasingly seen as a cornerstone of the bilateral relationship. 2014, Ukraine crisis and the sanctions shift. The annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014 marked a major shift in EU-Russia relations. The EU responded with a series of economic sanctions targeting key sectors of the Russian economy. These sanctions restricted access to financing for Russian companies and imposed embargoes on specific energy-related technologies. In retaliation, Russia imposed its own sanctions, including a ban on agricultural imports from the EU. This led to a significant reduction in trade between the two parties, particularly in the energy sector. By 2016, the EU's trade deficit with Russia had been significantly reduced, primarily due to the sharp decline in imports of Russian energy. The sanctions of 2014 set the stage for further deteriorating relations between the EU and Russia, and they foreshadowed the energy disruptions that would follow in the coming years.